Shalom. Hi. Welcome to Torah Talk with Tamar. I'm Tamar, and on today's episode, I want to explore whether or not Torah is a great option for women. Hi, I'm Tamar. I'm a scholar of the Hebrew Bible, a writer, and a homeschooling, homesteading, home birthing, Torah keeping, widowed mother of 7. Together, we live in the Southern Appalachian, Southwest Virginia region of the United States, where I keep sheep, grow crops, and cook our meals from scratch, together with my 5 boys and 2 girls. Welcome to my channel. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been told that as a woman, I'm silly for choosing a patriarchal book that oppresses women. But really, if you've come to that conclusion about the Torah, I believe it's because you've never really studied it. 20 years ago, when I started my journey to study the Hebrew Bible, I found a completely different story inside the Hebrew Bible than one that is often told about those books. My love for Torah has come from the fact that it gives me lots of protection and rights as a woman. It's perfect in the way that it was written. So many ancient societies left us written laws, the Vikings, Egyptians, and Romans, but one thing they all had in common was they failed to protect women in their societies, and that led to their demise. The Torah is the oldest surviving ancient law book that people actually still use today. So why have I chosen this book as a woman, and why do I believe that this book is the best option for women like myself? I haven't found anything oppressive in the Torah or the Hebrew Bible, as I have studied it thoroughly, gotten down to the Hebrew meaning of the texts, and really explored what it says outside of what other people say about the Hebrew Bible. There's many interpretations within Judaism and people who have borrowed the Hebrew Bible in Christianity about what it says. But when we explore the actual Hebrew of the text, we see that it treats women as equals and protects them. So let's start in Genesis. One of the most beautiful things about the Torah is that it has established that both men and women were created in the image of their Creator. Both of them. So it says in Genesis 1:26, let us make humankind in our image. Twice a plural is used. And this is a female and male duality creating Adam and Hava in their image. The fact that women were created in the image of their Creator has huge implications about the way that women were designed. So many people have written books to try to heal gender relationships, but I believe that the one that can heal it the most is the Torah. And why? When we understand that women were created in the image of their Creator, we can then understand why women exhibit the emotions that they do. Women exhibit the desire to create, compassion, nurturing, anger, jealousy. Healthy jealousy is actually biblical. So not only does this protect women, but it helps us to understand women and understand ourselves why we believe and think the way that we do. Equality was granted first to women, not by any nation, but by the Torah. It says in Genesis 1:28 that the Creator blessed both man and woman and told them to rule over the wildlife, particularly the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and everything that crawls on the ground. It wasn't until Genesis 3 that we see a curse come over humanity. And even still, that curse was given to 2 people specifically, not all men and women. The biggest thing to understand from Genesis 3 is that patriarchy and men ruling over women is not the Adamic ideal. It's a curse, not a command. So those who accuse the Torah of being oppressive towards women and subduing women under a patriarchal institution are simply wrong. Genesis 3:16 is a curse. It's not a command. we were commanded in Genesis 1 as men and women to rule over wildlife and not each other. So from the beginning, Torah establishes that women are equal and that they are not to be ruled over, but to rule together with men in different capacities. The protection of equality is not the only thing that the Torah gives women protection in. And I want to talk about 4 areas that protect women in the Torah. The first most significant area that I believe the Torah protects women in is their home. One of the most important relationships after your priority of worshiping the Creator is your relationship with your husband for women. It's the most important relationship for man or woman, but specifically speaking to women here being protected in the Torah. The Torah gives women the right of monogamy. So in Genesis, it says that a man is supposed to leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife. And that is singular. And even though passages have been wrongly used to try to promote polygamy, the Torah does not actually promote polygamy. I have a paper about that if you're interested that I'll drop in the links, and I'll touch on this later. But firstly, in that verse in Genesis, it tells men that they need to cleave to their wife. The Torah also does not have a mechanism to divorce unless it's on false grounds, and this protects women against polygamy and abandonment. Inside of the Torah, if a man had a grievance against his wife to divorce her, he had to go to a judge and prove that she had done something wrong to be excommunicated. This is from page 333 in my book, The Torah Made Her Equal. HaTorah grants women the equal right to pursue a divorce on fault grounds. Any Israelite woman has the right to obtain an audience with a judge to ask for a divorce. After a thorough investigation, a judge in the house of Israel can decree excommunication against a spouse who has committed a transgression for which there is no blood atonement. There are more than a couple dozen scenarios in which HaTorah commands that a person is permanently and irrevocably excommunicated from a community. Excommunication, which is permanent, is a form of divorce permitted in HaTorah. The remaining spouse is free to remarry among the Israelite community because their excommunicated spouse is no longer a member of the community, in which case it is not adultery. Another type of permissible female-initiated divorce in HaTorah is during an engagement where a woman has a right to oppose polygamy. In Exodus 21, women are given the right to break off engagements without penalties if her fiancé is found taking another woman in engagement or marriage. This passage is commonly misidentified as a regulation of polygamy. However, the verb used for the first woman indicates engagement, not marriage. The word used in verse 8 is Strong's Hebrew 3259, ya'ad. It is not the traditional Hebrew word used to take, lakach, someone in marriage. This means that the first woman has not yet consummated a marriage with relations with a man, and he remains only her fiancé. Should her fiancé join with another woman, she has the full right to leave without having to pay anything. This demonstrates that the woman, even though engaged, was not subservient property to the man. She still retained self-autonomy through the right to initiate and secure a divorce. Epic stuff. For so many decades, years, however you want to start the story of when you tune into religious conversations, but the fact is there are still people in this present day that interpret Exodus 21 to mean that a man can take a wife and then a second wife as long as he provides her food, clothing, and sexual relations at the same rate that he was before. And that is an egregious error of what the Hebrew says. As I pointed out, the Hebrew verb used there for the first woman is engagement. In Israelite culture, A marriage was not consummated until sexual relations became a part of the equation. So there was no conjugal rights in the first place. This is a passage in which a woman retains her right to monogamy. If she catches her fiancé cheating or engaged to another woman or having another woman in some capacity, she just wakes up one day and finds out that they're having relations, she has a right to divorce him and break off the engagement. This is another way in which the Torah reinforces a woman's right to monogamy. And it also enforces the grounds that a woman can have a divorce on fault grounds. Who wants to be discarded for simply no reason? That is reckless to society and actually detrimental to oneself and their spouse. And this is another beautiful facet of Torah. Unless a couple goes to a judge and dissolves their marriage on fault grounds, they can't divorce. And this is good for women because we can't be discarded for frivolous reasons in a marriage. And this is a beautiful way in which the Torah protects women. Women are also protected in their homes in Torah by a beautiful command that most of us know. Honor your father and mother. And the mother is included in that. In the fact that the mother is to be honored in her own home in front of the children has great implications. It means that the father has to, in all situations, back the mother in what she says. Of course, if she's breaking Torah, that would be an exception. But I'm going on the premise that we have a household with two spouses that are observing the commands of the Most High. Honor your mother. That means that the mother can't be used as a workhorse in her own home to simply birth the children and clean up after them. What she says in her own home has weight in front of her children, and the husband cannot undermine that. It also means, contrary to popular belief, that a mother has great influence over who her daughters marry, and her sons as well. For so long, it has been said by many theologians that only the father passes the daughters off with his consent in marriage. But honor your mother means that the mother equally has a say in who her daughters and sons go to marry. Even Rebekah told Isaac that if her sons would marry outside of their faith, her life wouldn't be worth living anymore. In the Apocrypha, there are passages which also support Rebekah saying that she asked her son to take a vow not to marry two women, not to engage in polygamy, but also to marry a woman within his faith. This is another beautiful aspect of Torah in which women are protected and given dignity in their homes. Let's also talk about protecting women in the community, because there is so much in Torah that protects women. I had a friend years ago tell me that the Torah was the first women's rights document. And I paused and thought about what she said, and I reflected on that statement for years. And the more I thought about what she said, the more I realized she was right. It has been the twisting, the turning, and the misrepresentation of Torah that has made people think that the Torah oppresses women. Let's continue and find out why it doesn't. Women are protected in their community under the rules of Torah in one major area that I'll start with. They are protected when it comes to trade, business, and lending. Women cannot be denied loans in a Torah observant community, in a Torah society, simply on the basis of their gender. When men and women do business, women have to be treated with fairness in scales and measurements when people are trading with them. And women have to be given equal standing in any prosecution against their business in the court of law. As an extension of that, women are protected in courts of law under the Torah. Their testimonies hold equal weight. They can be witnesses in a trial. And women are protected against false accusations against them by the Torah requiring a thorough trial against any and every citizen in the nation of Israel. A woman could not be accused by one person or by even 2 or 3 witnesses. In addition to the Torah requiring 2 or 3 witnesses against a woman, it required a trial. It requires judges to do diligent investigative work to make sure that the woman is not innocent and being accused. And this means a lot. Women cannot just be butchered in the streets because of somebody's rage or even her own husband's rage. A woman has to be brought before the priests and priestesses. Yes, I'll get into that. There were, contrary to popular belief, priestesses in Israelite culture. And the judges that were putting women on trial were not only men. In order to be fair, there were female judges in the Torah. Torah is a society in which female leadership was accepted, and that includes spiritual leadership. There are evidences of Israelite priestesses that served in the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, throughout the Torah. Women sang and led in spiritual gatherings as well. When it says to appoint leaders and judges in the Torah, that word is third person plural masculine. And just like our English word they, which includes females and males, the Hebrew word used to appoint judges and leaders means female judges and leaders as well. It is only through the balance of female and male wisdom that a society can thrive and also survive. Every society in history that has ostracized women from leadership and from being judges has been extinguished from this earth. The Torah is the oldest surviving law book that is still being used. And I encourage people to continue to allow female judges in Torah observant societies to balance the wisdom. Let's go and further and talk about other ways in which women are protected in Torah observant societies. Widows is another one. Tragically, in many parts of the world, widows are mistreated because they no longer have a male guardian. Even from her own male relatives, she can be ostracized, denied financial means of survival, used as a prostitute because of her impoverished condition, and the atrocities continue. I could go on about the ways widows are treated in other areas of the world, and even in my own home country of the United States. In the Torah, there is a massive and forceful hedge of protection that is commanded around a widow. Not only is the community commanded to help her financially through her tithe, they are commanded to treat her with sensitivity, dignity, and gentleness. And this is a stark contrast to the way widows are currently treated around the world. And this is one reason why I believe that women can find safety, security, protection, and peace in the Torah. Because the Almighty has spoken in His Torah how to treat women. And at every word and turn of the Torah, there is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful protection for women. Let's continue in the ways that Torah protects women in society. Another one is impoverished women. Women often experience poverty when they become the primary caretaker of their child. And also just like men when they're laid off from their employment. Torah has a command that says that you are to be open-handed to those in need by lending to them freely whatever loans that they need, regardless of their gender. And also we are to share the edges of our fields and crops to those who are poor, and that includes women. Women have a way to have safety and security outside of those who might be discriminating on them in wage employment. The Torah also protects women against defamation in society. There are commands which apply to women that you are not to spread rumors and defame another person's character in society. I want to talk now about the third way that Torah protects women, and that is their body. Many times, especially in our modern 50-50 culture, women are expected to perform like men. And they aren't given resting periods, for example, in their postpartum days after having babies. They are expected to return to work in a very short amount of time, even though they have a massive scar inside their womb that is still healing. Could you imagine asking a man with a cast on his leg to return to work 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks after he just broke a bone or had a complete torso fracture? Yet we ask women to do that a lot in societies. The Torah speaks against this. And it also speaks against the genocide of baby girls. And I want to talk about that passage in Leviticus, which is so often wrongly contorted to mean that it's oppressive towards female babies and makes women dirtier after having a female baby. Nothing could be further from the truth. In the Torah, there is a passage that says that after a woman has a boy, she is to be given rest for 40 days. And then also, when it's a female, 80 days. And this is a rest from the tabernacle. If you read the passage closely, it means that she is not required to go to the tabernacle to give a sacrifice for her uncleanness. It does not mean that she's dirtier after giving birth to a girl because girls make her dirtier. No, this is a way in which women are doubly reinforced to bond to their daughters and given a permissible excuse for not going to the tabernacle. If she's committed an accidental sin during this 40 or 80 days, she's not required to be given time to go to the tabernacle. She can stay home and rest. The same is true about women's biological demands and how that conflicts with their vows that they give in the Torah. Oftentimes, there is a passage in the Torah that is contorted falsely to say, oh, look, women have less value than men because the amount of money that they have to give for vows is less. And this is an incorrect contortion of a passage which, with more context, is understood to mean about women's vows. Women's vows have less monetary weight than men's vows because women have more biological demands that prevent them from sometimes fulfilling those vows. What are those biological demands? It's oftentimes said that this passage in Leviticus is evidence that a woman is worth less than a man because of the value of money assigned. This is a falsehood and a false narrative about what the Torah is speaking about. It's speaking about the value in monetary terms of a woman's vow. And a woman's vow is valued less in monetary terms for a reason. It is because women have biological demands that sometimes make it difficult for them to fulfill their vow. What are those biological demands? Well, first, of course, we all know because we make comical jokes about it, a woman has a menstrual cycle. And that can sometimes prohibit her from showing up at a certain place in time to fulfill a vow. The same thing if she's pregnant, breastfeeding, or postpartum, or nurturing a small child, in which case she may not be able to fulfill her vow. And by extension, this is the reason that her husband is able to pay the value of her vow and or cancel it. This is not control over woman. This is not control of a husband over a wife. That is a contortion of the passage. A husband is helping alleviate a woman's obligation to fulfill a vow because he is her husband. And oftentimes it's the husband's presence that makes her unable to fulfill the vow because he is also the reason that she is pregnant and therefore postpartum and breastfeeding. In this way, the husband becomes a partner in the process of procreation, rather than all of that responsibility solely falling on the woman. Another way in which the Torah protects women's bodies is by not requiring them to go into the army. This is not sexism. This is an adjustment for the fact that a female body is physically weaker than a man's, and that will not change. Yes, there is some degree of shades of gray with that. There are women who are stronger than some men, and that is the exception and not the rule. Women have a different role in society in sustaining life. And the Torah has decided that putting the physical strain on a woman's body that military service requires is not appropriate. The same with agricultural labor that came from these divisions of the 12 tribes. It's often believed that the 12 tribes is a social construct, but it's a military construct and an agricultural construct. The 12 tribes guarded land, and the reason that the men were put over this is because men primarily deal with large cattle that give us milk and meat. This was firstly and foremostly a male's role. Ask any woman who has had to do heavy manual labor over 10, 20, 30, or 40 years, and she will tell you the story of physical strain that her body was not meant to endure. This is not to say women are weak, and this is not internalized misogyny or sexism against women. This is fact. A woman's muscle proportions are scientifically proven to be different than men's. Women do not have upper body strength that men have. And even doing particular chores during, let's say, when a woman is lactating, can cause mastitis. Another way that the Torah protects a woman's body is protecting her from sexual assault. In the Torah, when a woman cries out against sexual assault, she is not punished for her perpetrator. And that includes rape. I have to say it that way because of censorship on social media. But we all know what I'm talking about. It's wrongly believed that the Torah forces a woman to marry a man that sexually assaults her. It's wrongly believed that the Torah requires a woman to marry a man who has raped her, and that is false. Under the Torah, holding a person against their will is a form of kidnap, and that person is to be put to death. Rape is punishable by death in the Torah. And this is another way in which Torah protects a woman's body. Let's also talk about women's finances. This is the fourth way in which the Torah offers great protection to women. If somebody steals from another person in the Torah, they have to restore what they stole, plus interest on top of what they stole. This includes women. If somebody steals wages, monetary goods, cattle, or whatever it might be from women, women have equal standing under the Torah. And another person is to make restitution to that person. There's another famous passage about not coveting from your neighbor that I want to highlight here because it equally protects women. There's a famous passage that says, do not covet your neighbor's wife, your neighbor's ox, your neighbor's house, etc. And the pronoun used there is masculine. So this is directed at not taking from men in society. The beautiful thing about the passage is that it redirects all of those same protections towards women by reiterating or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Instead of using repetition in the phrases to again say the female form of pronouns, it simply says or anything that belongs to your neighbor. That means for all the same protections that men have in society, from having their spouse coveted, their house, their ox, any of their tangible objects or people in their family, the same is given to women. There's an overarching command in the Torah to love your neighbor as yourself. And the beautiful thing about that command is that it applies to women. The same love that men give themselves is the same love that they are to give to their wives and to female members of society. There's no disparity in the Torah between the rights of women and men. And that all starts back in Genesis 1:26, where men and women are both created in the image of their Creator. By extension, that equality principle in Torah is the reason that women have equal rights under the Torah. It's one reason that I've chosen the Torah myself. It's also why I absolutely loathe when people falsely misrepresent the Torah as being a system for men written by men. We don't know throughout the Hebrew Bible exactly who wrote all of the minor prophets or historical books. It's not out of the question to think that some of those were written by women. But what we do know is that the Hebrew Bible is full of poems, stories, songs, wisdom, and guidance that speaks to women. The Torah speaks to women. All of the women that stood at Mount Sinai listened to the words of the Torah because it was written for them. And I believe out of all options a woman has on this earth, in free countries where she can choose her practice of faith and spirituality, the Torah offers women the best chance of security, peace, and happiness. And I hope that in your own studies of the Hebrew Bible and the Torah, that you also see that. And if you have been discouraged from following the Torah because you've been told it's a patriarchal document written by men that seeks to oppress women, I encourage you to get a copy of my book, The Torah Made Her Equal. 20 years ago, when I started my journey to understand who my Creator was and what He wanted from me, I discovered a completely different story in the pages of the Torah. I saw a system in which women were given dignity and honor as equal to men. I saw a system in which women were given dignity and honor made in the image of their Creator. Women are equally loved by their Creator, and therefore they're equally given protection, security, safety, and happiness inside of the Torah. Our Creator does not see us as second-rate creations, and I hope that you as women also understand that. Please don't forget to like this video and also hit the subscribe button so that you can join me in other discussions about the Hebrew Bible and the Torah. Shalom.